Hey everybody, welcome in this new episode of Juno Live. I hope everything goes well on your side and that you had a good start of the week, and let's play a game. So last week I released two things. Actually, I released one thing yesterday, which was like having new option in the emulator. We might see that later in the live. But the one thing that I released is Juno Run, which is a new way for you to run Node.js script with your CLI within its context. So basically, let's say you want to do some administration task from your machine or from the CI, or you want to automate some script or whatever. You can basically use the CLI to run that script, so the script gets all information it needs to connect to your satellites and do stuff. So yeah, let's play a bit. So in the documentation, of course, you're gonna find in the references the new command run here, like it's the same as if you would run Juno run -help. That's basically the same information, because what I do is basically the CLI extract markdown, and then the markdown gets embedded in the website. Anyway, and you can find more information here. I put that in clients Node.js. Yeah, maybe I don't know where to put Node.js because it's not the function, it's not backend. Yeah, anyway, so you need the CLI, and when you have that, when you have the newest version, you can run that new command Juno run. So it supports running JavaScript and TypeScript, because basically it will require you to have also AS build. But if you have your project with Vite, you already have AS build, and then you will build your script and run it. So yeah, let's have a look. So if we just here, it's the demo application that I have in the list of demo app of Juno, one of the few, and it's also a satellites I have on mainnet that I use to assert various things, so we can use that one, right? So this satellites, I think we already used it in previous call, but yeah, let's continue to use that one. So in my repo, so everything is set. I already have my Juno config file, it's deployed on mainnet, etc. And let's say I want to create a script to do something, and that something will just be a console log. But I'm gonna pick TypeScript here, and we're gonna call it, I don't know, my script. Okay, and in that script, the first things I need to know is to import the new define run function that is exposed by config. So if you are using this, you also need to update config, and when you have that, I expose the function on run. So that's the one the CLI will search with, which gets declared by define run. And then in define run, I can just have an object if I want with run, and that run command then is, I think, it's async or not, but so let's do that. So that's the basic. Basically, the CLI will search for this file, and which is constructed with define run, and then it executes the run function that is inside. So if I go here, I generated earlier an admin key so that I can start my my CLI without password. As always, I will delete my key after the call. So I'm in the folder, so now I'm gonna do Juno run -src my script, right? And because I generated an admin key with a special profile to use that one, you see this one, I will just use that that keyword so that it takes my my identity to do that. So it's unrelated to the script. Anyway, so here I run. Okay, does your script must export a function and on run? So let's have a look. Does it export it? Not yet. We'll see. So yeah, the export was missing, and I have it. So now it doesn't do much, but the cool things about it is that it can, for example, here you see I pass the profile, or maybe I gonna pass the mode to say, it's running production. So what I can do is here I transform that into a function, and at that level I get the mode and the profile. So now if I run it, okay, let's just do that because my key is for profile. I have production and live because production is the default. Cool, no? Now, yeah, it's nice to have an hello world, but what we want is to communicate with our satellite, so we need to know the satellite ID. So what we can do, sorry, here you can use the satellite. So if you check the definition, you get satellite identity containers. Everything is type, and also the CLI use ZOD and asserts that the format is correct. So you cannot really do incorrect wrong. So here I had two text, and if I run it now, here that's my satellite. So if I have a look here, you see that's my satellite ID, right? So yeah, we already have basically all the information we need. We will need an identity to connect to mainnet, because that's basically the access key, right? So here I can also have a look at who am I. So if I run that now, you see here I got my key. If I go to the access key, it's gonna be the same. And if I run Juno, who am I, for that profile, I get the same answer, right? So it's real to really run the one that is safe and for the CLI. And since in a real use case you're gonna have a password to encode that access key, it becomes a bit secure, or a bit more secure, because then it inherits that security from the CLI, basically, which is nice. All right, so in that satellites, I have like a collection with some documents that are basically counter, because if we have a look at the application, it's just a dumb app where I can sign in, and then I get a counter. That's basically it, right? Okay. So let's say we want to have the number of documents, the count. Oh no. Let's do something different. We want to list all the documents. That's good. So what we can do, I will remove that, and now we're gonna have to jump in async, because we're gonna use the same function as the one we use when we build our apps. So when I want to list the document on the data store, I use list docs, right? So let's do that. Here we're gonna use list docs from the core, and I think the collection is called counter. My list. So here we run it again. Yeah, I should run the right command. And here it, yeah, that's a good point. So now You see, when I do that, it doesn't work. Because when I just run this doc, it assumes that I'm in an application, and in that application, I have called the init satellites, right? That takes care of having a store and stuff and in memory so that everything is there. So basically what we should do, we should provide those two information to list docs. This way list docs can use the satellites ID and the entity imperatively to make the call. So here there is a satellites argument, and I can pass this to it. So what it will do is when I call listDoc, we say, wait, I got an explicit configuration, so I'm gonna use that explicit configuration to do the call. So now if we start it, yeah, we got the result. And this should be documented in the guides. It's not explained. I don't know if it's explained, but at least you have it here. All right. And yeah, then you can start doing fancy stuff like, okay, you have a JSON file, so let's write it to the, I don't know, maybe you need a script to export some data because you want to create a new collection, and then you want to import those documents in the collection. So what you can do is like, so in my list we get the items, right? This one, huh? So what we're gonna do is here we're gonna do an await write file, and it's the destination, yes. So we're gonna call data.json, and here we're gonna stringify the output, and because they are not that text, that's fine, it's all good. Okay, so if I do that, you see now I have an issue because I cannot serialize begin because JSON stringify does not support begin. So what we can do is we install the definitive utils, which is already here basically because it's used by core, but I just want to be explicit. And we're gonna pass here a JSON replacer, which is used in the example, I think. Yes, you see. So when you do that, now we have our data.json, you see. So I have the key, I have the owner, I have the data here, which is the counter, the version, updated that, and so on and so on. And we needed that replacer for those big int here. That's why. If we would have not written those. Okay. So now, so let's say that's a function const export data context on run context. I export the things here we had, and here I will create a context. Let's call it satellite. That's gonna be a better name. Satellite option, right? Like this. And here we're gonna call that satellite and satellite option, and we put oops like that. rest. Okay, and since it's a CLI, we can pass argument and decide and have more option, right? So I have a util, so let's quickly have a look to it. I have a util called nextArc, which is really interesting. And arcs, for arcs, what do I use in the CLI? Okay, like this. So we're gonna grab the arcs and let's say let's print those. So let's say here we want to have an option where we say export, and then we want to have the contrary import. Okay, so you see it's here, it's export. So what we're gonna do is I'll copy that because I'm lazy. And here we're gonna do if as arcs, and how does that work? Funny. As arcs, how do I, like this. Ooh, fancy. Alright, so okay, and here we await export data, satellites, return. And this way we have our function that does something. But in the end, it's a bit complicated, I think, because we do one script to do that, and then we have arcs, and I kind of feel like that would be an option, but at the end of the day, maybe the better option is to have two scripts, right? So, you know, like instead of having all that mumbo jumbo here, I just take the script and I say export script, right? And then in the export script, I just have export. Right? Okay. So like this. And now if I want to do an import script, I just copy it, I say import script, and that will be my import script, because you need to have one on-run function per file. All right, so import script. So what do I want to do is here I want to create a collection. Let's call it copy. That is restricted to me. Yeah. What did I do? Ooh, like a refresh is missing here. Okay, so here we have copy. So what we want to do is take all those stuff here and copy them here. So let's go. First of all, we need to run the item. So we have them here. So I can technically just make an import, right? That works in Node.js, no? but let's read a file. That's gonna be easier. Items await read file. We read data.json, and what are the arguments again? Come on. Let's try. All right, and here we also want to pass with. This way we have it as string. Okay, and then we want to, at this point we will have the item in string, right? So here I gonna call import. Okay, now we want to transform that into an object, so we're gonna do json.parse the items, and now similarly to the replacer we need the contrary, which is a reviver. So here we use the reviver from definitely utils too, and then at this point we have a data. See, now we have a data. All right. There are various ways to solve that now, but we don't have too much data. So what I propose that we do is that we do set money. So alright, set money docs, and every time I forget what's the alright, so collection. Okay, so it's docs. And here that will be our item mapped, and what do we have? Key doc. Okay, so it's an array of doc like this, right? So but yeah, all right. So here we have doc, and what we want to do is we want to map those, because we need to provide a collection, so we call it copy and the doc. Okay, and likewise now when I'm gonna run that, it will fail because I don't have provide. So again, here I need to provide the satellite, same as before. We provide the ID and the entity. So now here, let's see. All right, so all right, it worked out. However, there is a catch here. So it's not wrong. That's the way it works currently. So what we did is we took a collection with documents that were created by users, right? So we have a collection, and in that collection we had several documents. Wow. Okay. And each document were created by another user. So user 1, user 2 and 3, right? Okay, here, and so this one created this one. Okay, you see the point. Now what we did, so here we see like every document has an owner differently. And what we did now is we took this and we put it offline in a JSON data. And then we took that JSON data to put that back in another collection. However, now the one that created those documents aren't those users anymore. The one that created those documents is actually the CLI, our access key, right? So that's why here, if you have a look, the owner here is always the CLI. So there are various issue or feature requests open currently on GitHub. I'm not yet sure how we want and how secure we can do that, because it's kind of like the one that do something, the caller, is always the trustable entity. So it's really like the one that calls something is the one info that you should trust, and the whole security shame or mechanism is based on that. So let's see. But anyway, that was not the point of the script, just as an explanation. All right, but yeah, that's cool. You see, we can do fancy things, and yeah, I mean, you can basically do whatever you want. You can even go a bit more fun, like you can start doing some administration things, because here we have used Juno build core, but probably never used it. But there is a package that isn't really documented, but there is JSDoc, which is better than nothing. There's a package called admin that you can use to do lots of various tasks, and those are mostly those used by the CLI and the console to do stuff like upgrade and so on. But still, you can have funny things like what do we have here? We have condocs for example. So let's install the library and let's create a new script that we call count. All right, and here we gonna do tac, we keep that. We don't need that. What we want to do, we just want to print the count. Wait, count docs, and here again we need the context and the collection, so we need copy. And if I run count script, yeah, it works, and provides also other stuff like, right, you can delete docs. So if you want to delete directly, you can play with controllers or the config. Is there a memory size? Yeah. So let's say we want to have the heap memory size. That's an endpoint. So we're gonna do console log heap and stable memory. No. Okay, it's because it's flat. No. Params satellites. Okay. Ah, I see. Okay, so here I will take the identity like this, and here we're gonna do satellite ID, satellite ID and identity. Now we are good. All right, and if we run that, you see, and then here you have the size in stable or heap. But let's say you want to go a step further and you want to have more detail on that. So since you have the script, you can go even further and say, okay, but let's have the full experience. So you can use also all the ICGS libraries that are dedicated to the internet computer, so such as the IC management here. So let's install it. And here for the IC management, we're gonna need to do that, right? So let's do another script. So we're gonna call it management, for example. And here, let's do this. So we create an agent for the host. I'm not sure if the container is given here. Let's have a quick try. So the container is an option that allows you to connect with the emulator, but I'm not sure if it falls back here to its production value, which is undefined by default. So that's why I'm a bit unsure. Undefined, right? So we can only use that in development. So let's use HTTPS. TCP. What is it again? TCP. This. So basically that's the logic here that we want. So here I'm gonna do that, and here we're gonna use this one. Then we have the status, and here we're gonna do console log status. And I guess it takes a canister ID, so we will use the satellite ID. But we still need the identity, which we give here. So yeah, should be good. So if we do the same, I get all the status, you see, and before we have 11 something, and I retrieve that value here, and 45, 48, which is here. But I get also all the other information like running, blah blah blah. It's basically all the information that I use and behind the scene that you don't have to know when generally when you use Juno. And it's the same, like if you want to, I don't know, like for some reason do some ledger stuff, you can do the same. Like here you're gonna implement this one, and here we're gonna do let's call it balance, and what did I use? Yeah, here, and don't have balance. Account balance. Ooh, because I took the ICP. But then I need to encode stuff. Okay, so let's say we want the balance Where is the ledger here? Here. So we want the balance of this address, right? So where do I find the ledger ID here? I don't know it. Okay, so since I documented that yesterday, I should find the information here. The ledger is this one. So okay, so we do a principal. Okay, and here we're gonna do balance. And what does it want? Account identifier, which is of type account identifier param, which can be in string. So we just go here and I take, where was it? This one here. And if we run that, oh yeah, balance. The error message is not too bad. I'm happy with that. Yeah. I don't know. Here we see the balance. Volume, transaction. It's not the balance. Here. 27 something. 27 something. So we are good, right? So yeah. That's basically it. You can just run script all the time. And cherry on top, it just work out in the GitHub action. You know, like for example, in this repo here, I have my deploy action, right? That do blah 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 and arc deploy. So basically, if you want to run a script, you can in your CI you can as well have a YAML function, and then do the checkout, prepare, and then run your script with Juno, and here you do run -src my file.ts. Boom, and that works. Assuming the token you have in the repo has enough privileges to do what's encoded in your script, but it just works. Kind of nice. Alright, so yeah, that's basically it for Juno Run. If you have some question, just ask. I've put like there are some scripts here that are useful for administration, but if you have any question, just ask. I mean, I'm really used to run scripts in JavaScript, so yeah, I'm reach out. And before we end this call, the last things that was shipped yesterday Sunday, actually, in the afternoon. So the emulator now ships more services. So it used to ship internet identity and so on, but now it ships also the registry, the cycle ledger, and NSWASM and NSDAP. So let's try that out. And is that documented here? Where is that documented? Here. So by default, we still have the same services, and those new services are not spin by default, but because I mean, the number of people that develop satellites hardly use the registry or the NSDAP, right? But let's say you want it, so that's why those are now, how would you say, toggleable? something like that, switchable, enableable. Yeah, anyway, you can enable those in your configuration. So if I have a look here to my Juno config, what I can do is in where is that? I had the section emulator. In the emulator, I have to specify which image I use. I don't have to, but I can specify if I want to run Podman or Docker, etc. Right? But here we're gonna use the default, and the new things you have network here and services, because maybe we're gonna have more stuff in network in the future. And here you can enable or disable things. For example, here I can say I want to disable internet identity. If you don't say anything, it just takes the default and it refers to these maps, right? So for that example, we say we want to spin NNS tab. So right now it's just true or false because just take the default configuration, but maybe in the future we will evolve. So then in your repo, and this won't work, but I know it, you can start the emulator. So the config always have to be before you start the emulator, or if you want to do it again, either you clean the container and the volume, or in your configuration you go in the runner, and in your runner, you're gonna have like a volume. You give another name, or container, no, what do we have? So name to use for the emulator, use for managing a specific container. Yeah, you can put a name here to use another one, and then you increment that and it takes another one, but here we're gonna use default. And then you start. And while, for example, internet entity does not need another services, there are services that require other services to be enabled. And in that case, NNS tab requires the CMC, which is enabled by default in Skylab, ICP also default, NNS also default, but SNS. So that's why here we have to go and also enable. So right now it's basic rule. If you notice one rule that is not implemented, you can tell me or create a pull request. Just everything is asserted with Zod, so it's like a refine. And yeah. Anyway, so let's do it. And you see, so that's not new, cycles, ledger, and here comes all the flood of messages of NNS and NSDAP. That's also why that stuff is disabled by default. And you see, it's really like lots of message. But once it's mounted, we will have NSDAP. So if we go to the infrastructure, I will take the so, and that's Pocket IC that do it, like, right? It's we are using this project under the hood, which is really amazing. So not my code. Though I did not remove the previous code in case we will need it someday. But here we go. And yeah, we have an SDAP locally with internet identity and everything. And yeah, I mean, we also have the console, and yeah, should just work out. Yes. Yeah. So glad you like the doc. Yeah, exactly. I'm agree with you. Running an NS locally is super nice to quickly test the ICP ledger things. Definitely. And I've done the same. But I start to always use now the local emulator because you got all the stuff. And just that you know, as you mentioned ICP, when you spin the Juno local console, here you have the wallet too, and in the wallet you can also you have also a get ICP button, and each time it gives you 50 ICP. So it's nice to if you need ICP to spin more satellites or do whatever top up and stuff, it's there. So that's it. It's maybe my bad code too that burn this weekend. I have to revert a bit of code too. That's a good one. So thanks for attending today Juno Live. I hope it was interesting enough. If you have any question, as always, ping me, and see you next time. Enjoy your week. Bye bye.